Good evening, everybody. This is Bronson's By Any Means Necessary Fantasy Football Talk preseason for 2023. This will be my wide receivers, my wide receiver draft preview, my spikes and yikes at the wide receiver position. We're going to talk about the top 50 today because most, it's probably a good idea to draft at least 5 wide receivers. And so, as usual, we're just going to work on the assumption that you're in a 10-team league. You want 5 wide receivers, so we're going to go 50 deep. So you got your wide receiver 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. We're going to talk about ESPN's rankings, how they have them as of, I guess it's been a few days. But it doesn't, I just did a mock draft today, and the rankings haven't changed since I took the screenshots of the rankings. So it's pretty much the same. So we're just going to talk about it as quickly and efficiently as possible. Today is National Cinema Day, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard. So movie tickets are like $4 a piece, I think. And the movie theaters are packed. I'm in this group, this movie theater cinema group. They're showing pictures of their lobbies at the movie theaters, and they're just jam-packed, lines to the door. I was considering going to the movies right about now, actually, but then I looked up to see how many pre-tickets have been sold for the movie I was going to go see, like 20 minutes in advance, and the movie theater was already more than half full. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait until a normal day. Those tickets for me are free, so I don't need to celebrate this National Cinema Day. I don't want to deal with crowds at the line at concessions, and I certainly don't want to sit next to somebody unless it's my niece or nephew or family or a date or something. I'm not interested in the least in sitting next to somebody otherwise. So maybe you'll have better luck. Maybe it's worth it to you to take your kids, your family, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, to the movies tonight. Anyways, let's get to it. Let's get to the wide receivers. ESPN's top 10. So your wide receiver 1s. At number 1, we got Justin Jefferson coming off a historically big year. 2, we got Jamar Chase. 3, we got Cooper Kupp, who in the last 2 years has been a monster. Just ended up getting hurt last year. 4, we got Tyreek Hill. 5, we got Devontae Adams. New quarterback for Devontae Adams there with the Raiders, but I'm not worried, and neither should you. 6, we got Stephon Diggs. 7, we got CeeDee Lamb. 8, we got Garrett Wilson. The addition of Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, the Offensive Rookie of the Year award that he, in my opinion, did not deserve. He wasn't even the best rookie on his team. I think that was Breece Hall. Breece Hall just had the misfortune to get hurt. But I still wouldn't have given Garrett Wilson the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think Kenneth Walker. I'll see how deserved it. I gotta put some lotion on my ankle because I've got bad eczema that flares up really bad the more humid it gets outside, and it's been very humid around here lately. 9, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God. And at 10, we got A.J. Brown of the Eagles. Don't get confused when you're drafting because there's gonna be two A. Browns there, and kind of ranked in the same spot, wide receiver. But I do think Amon-Ra, I think it says St. Brown, so it'd be A. St. Brown, and then you'll have A.J. Brown, A. Brown. So, with the top 10, I don't have a huge problem with it, but I feel like I needed to nitpick something. So I'm downgrading Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit. I know that he puts up monster numbers. He's never really had any help on the other side of him, and he's still put up monster numbers. I think Detroit has invested a lot of draft capital and money into the running back position this offseason to upgrade that position. And I think that they plan on running the ball more. Plus, one of the running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, is said to be like Alvin Kamara, supposed to be really good at catching the ball. So I think that's going to cut into his targets. I think the Jameson Williams, who we'll talk about later, when he finally gets back on the field, is going to cut into Amon-Ra St. Brown's targets. I like him as a wide receiver 1 early in the year. Not so much season long. So I'm downgrading him to a high-end wide receiver 2 instead, which means there's an opening in my top 10. I got to move somebody up, right? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Your wide receiver 2s, according to ESPN, 11 through 20. Got Jalen Waddle. At 12, we got DK Metcalf. At 13, we got T. Higgins. I'm anticipating a big year for T. Higgins. He's trying to get paid. And so, 14, we got Chris Olave. Rave reviews about Chris Olave this offseason coming out of Saints camp. A lot is being anticipated for Chris Olave this year. 15, we got Devontae Smith. 16, we got Deebo Samuel. 17, we got Calvin Ridley, who is back from his year-long suspension. 18, we got Keenan Allen, who presumably is healthy. Hopefully he's still going to be a target monster for the Chargers. 19, we got Amari Cooper of the Browns. And 20, we still have Jerry Jeudy of the Broncos, despite the injury that's going to keep him out for a lengthy period of time. So, I'm moving into my final top 10 spot. I'm moving Chris Olave up. I'm buying all the hype that's coming out of Saints camp about Chris Olave this year. Derek Carr there. Having Derek Carr there should stabilize the QB position. It should, we've seen, Derek Carr knows how to get the ball to his stud wide receivers. The Michael Thomas experiment. I don't know how the Saints haven't cut him or traded him or done something with him yet, but he's, I think he's old news. It's the Chris Olave show in New Orleans now. I'm moving Chris Olave up to the wide receiver 1 line. As for some other movement in the wide receiver 2s, I'm moving Calvin Ridley out. I'm not high on Calvin Ridley this year at all. I honestly don't think I would put him in my top 30. I'm moving Amari Cooper down. He's at 19. I'm moving him to the wide receiver 3 line. Not a huge drop there. And then Jerry Jeudy, obviously. I'm not. I think with Sean Payton, the Denver offense is going to look a lot better. I'm not super concerned about it, but what I am concerned about is the injury. Jerry Jeudy always seems to get a little unlucky with the injury history. The lack of we haven't seen elite production from Jerry Jeudy yet, and the fact that Courtland Sutton is still there, even though I think Jeudy is clearly more talented than Sutton and has surpassed Sutton as the number 1 guy. This is the second year in a row now where there's been all this talk about the chemistry between Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton coming out of training camp, out of preseason, and with the coaching change with Sean Payton, you can't be sure, really, truly, on who's going to be the guy in the Denver passing game. So for those reasons, I'm downgrading Jerry Jeudy, but not a lot. He's still going to be on the wide receiver 3 line for me, which is going to be in most leagues a regular starter when he comes back from the injury. So, wide receiver 3s, 21 through 30. All right, I don't know what that was about. That was a nervous take. 21, we have Christian Watson, the second year sensation for the Packers. 22, we got DeAndre Hopkins, who I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the most supremely physically gifted wide receivers that we have ever seen in the NFL. I just hate the landing spot for him in Tennessee. So because of his talent, he's in that wide receiver 3. He's a wide receiver 3, but the Tennessee's just not a good landing spot. 23, we got Chris Godwin. Him and Mike Evans, who Mike Evans is at 26. Both those guys getting a little downgraded this offseason because of the obvious drop in QB from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. But there's a lot of... Baker Mayfield has allegedly had a pretty good training camp. Baker Mayfield, we've seen Baker Mayfield be successful before. I think he can be successful again. I don't know what happened with him in Carolina, but he was awful. He looked good for the Rams when he played for the Rams. He looked good for the Browns mostly, I think. Carolina was a disaster. Don't know what happened there, but that's behind him. I think that Baker Mayfield can have a Geno Smith type of year where he comes out of nowhere, ends up being a fringe fantasy starting quarterback because of the weapons he has. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, I think they're still elite guys, still top 20 talents at their position. So I don't have Godwin and Evans as low as the consensus. I have them both, maybe not quite wide receiver 2. Wait, yes I do. I do have Godwin and Evans. I moved them both up into the wide receiver 2 conversation. I also moved up Christian Watson. I think he's gonna have a big year despite how bad. He's gonna take Jordan Love from bad to looking average. We saw last year that Christian Watson has a knack for finding the end zone and for producing big plays. Those are really going to help him have a huge impact fantasy football wise. Yeah, so 24, Deontay Johnson. Sorry, I lost. I completely went off the rails with that. 25, got DJ Moore of the Bears. Not in Carolina anymore. He's with Chicago to help Justin Fields. 26, Mike Evans. 27, Terry McLaurin. I like McLaurin a lot. I think Sam Howell's really going to help his game, but the injury, the turf toe, is a concern. 28, we got Mike Williams. 29, we got Marquise Brown. I think Marquise Brown's going to see a heavy target load. He's the clear number 1 guy in Arizona now with DeAndre Hopkins gone. But the quarterback play and the overall lack of talent on that team is probably going to keep Marquise Brown in the wide receiver 3 conversation. I do have him a little bit higher than 29. I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3 just because I think his floor is going to be so high every week that you have to keep him at least to the high-end wide receiver 3. Some weeks, bye weeks, wide receiver 2. And then the 30, we got Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett is getting disrespected this year because of the draft, because the Seahawks drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I think that offense is going to be productive enough that all 3 of them are going to have useful weeks. I moving Calvin Ridley down. Calvin Ridley not even in my top 30. Jerry Jeudy down to wide receiver 3. Amari Cooper down to wide receiver 3. I'm moving Christian Watson up to wide receiver 2. Chris Godwin to wide receiver 2. Mike Evans to wide receiver 2. Moving DJ Moore up to like 21 because I think he's got the talent. There's just still a lot of concern about whether Justin Fields can be a good enough quarterback to sustain wide receiver 2 numbers for DJ Moore. There's a lot of people, I'm not one of them, there's a lot of people who believe that DJ Moore, the arrival of DJ Moore will have the same kind of impact on Justin Fields that the arrival of Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen in Buffalo. I'm not sold on that, but we'll see. If so, then DJ Moore could play his way into the wide receiver 1 conversation. But you got to remember, Stephon Diggs was a wide receiver 1 before he went to Buffalo, and he became a standing wide receiver 1 in Buffalo. DJ Moore has never been a wide receiver 1. He's been a mid to low end wide receiver 2 because of the bad quarterbacks or lack of touchdowns. Now he still has a bad quarterback. Will he increase his touchdowns in Chicago? Who knows? So, wide receiver 3 until further notice. So your wide receiver 4s, 31 through 40. We're starting with Drake London at 31. I think, there's obviously potential for a huge breakout there in year 2. The Atlanta offense hopefully will get a lot better with the addition of Bijan Robinson, but is Desmond Ridder going to be good enough? I haven't heard anything. Haven't heard a peep about Desmond Ridder this whole offseason, really. 32, we got Brandon Ayuk. 33, we got Christian Kirk. 34, Michael Pittman. 35, George Pickens. 36, we got Brandon Cooks. 37, Treylon Burks. 38, we got Cortland Sutton. 39, we got Jahan Dotson. And at 40, we got Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, since I moved Calvin Ridley all the way down from 17 to, I'll put him at 31. No. I want to keep Drake London at 31. I will put Calvin Ridley at 32. So who did I move? One player that I'm gonna, because I'm downgrading Calvin Ridley so much, I'm upgrading Christian Kirk. I think Christian Kirk is still going to be the number one guy in Jacksonville, at least for this year. And so I got Christian Kirk in the wide receiver 3 line in the top 30. I haven't been drafting him as much as I would have liked to, but I am targeting Christian Kirk in as my wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, depending on how my draft is gone, because I think he's going to put up consistent wide receiver 2 numbers, or wide receiver 3. His floor is wide receiver 3, his ceiling wide receiver 2. The fact that he's going as a wide receiver 4, that's value to me. George Pickens at 35. A lot of people will have him pegged for a huge breakout this year. We'll see. Even after Kenny Pickett became the starter last year, he wasn't seeing a bunch of targets. So Deontay Johnson is still there. There's a lot of, who knows with the Pittsburgh wide receivers. I think they're both. I do like George Pickens. I have been targeting George Pickens. I have been getting George Pickens, and I'm hoping for the breakout. I'm just not 100% sold. So I'm not. I think Pickens is ranked pretty fairly. I don't consider him a value pick. I don't consider him, ranked too high. Brandon Cooks at 36. I think Brandon Cooks, Dallas finally has that secondary receiver that they've lacked for a few years now. The consistent one. The problem with Dallas this year is they no longer have Kellen Moore calling plays. That offense is not going to be as aggressive. It's going to be a lot more conservative with Mike McCarthy calling plays. I'm concerned about the Dallas offense as a whole, especially since they don't have Dalton Schultz at tight end anymore. Brandon Cooks will probably most likely absorb those targets plus some. I'm just not. I'm not a fan, and I think most Cowboys fans aren't a fan. I'm not a fan. Most fantasy people aren't a fan of Mike McCarthy's play calling. So there's concern with Brandon Cooks. I think he's talented enough to be a wide receiver 3, but I think his ranking is pretty. I might move him up a little bit higher into the high 30s instead of the mid 30s. That's ticky tacky though. Whatever. It's 37. Treylon Burks. I was a big Treylon Burks guy going into last year's drafts. Didn't really pan out for me. I've drafted him a couple of places this year reluctantly because I waited too long on. I made calls on other players at other positions over wide receiver 4, whatever I think, wide receiver 4, and ended up not really getting the guys I wanted. So I settled for Treylon Burks optimistically, reluctantly, hoping for a breakout, a big year. But realistically, he's probably someone I'm going to end up not holding very long. I'm going to drop him for someone who is the hot name on waivers week 3, week 4 or so. Treylon Burks is not going to have the benefit of the doubt for me this year. So if he doesn't produce, if he comes out of the gate slow, he's not going to be on my roster for long. But the talent is there, the draft pedigree is there, the big playability is there. Everything is there except for the offense, which is a big concern. The quarterback play in Tennessee, the run-heavy offense is a concern. DeAndre Hopkins. There's a lot of concerns, but there's a lot of pros to Burks potentially having a breakout year. So he's worth picking, but I haven't. He's outside my top 40. Well, 37 is a little high. Jahan Dotson at 39. I'm a big Jahan Dotson guy this year. I know I'm not the only one in the fantasy community who's a big Jahan Dotson guy this year, especially with the injury to Terry McLaurin. with the way Sam Howell has looked, the way he looked in his 1 star last year, the way he's looked in preseason. I think the Washington Commanders offense is, and with Eric Bieniemy calling plays there, running it, I think the Washington Commanders offense is going to be something to behold, something worth worth a lot in fantasy. I think Jahan Dotson is a prime candidate for a breakout year. 39 seems awfully low, but wide receivers deep. There's a lot of good names ahead of him. I'm moving him up into the high 30s, but he's still, it's hard to justify putting him in the top 30 right now, but if everything that many of us believe about Jahan Dotson comes true, it's not going to take him long to move in the top 30. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba, I believe in the talent. I think he's talented, but he didn't play at all this last college season. Okay, he's already hurt now. He's behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Long-term talent, Jackson Smith-Njigba is there. Jackson Smith-Njigba in the Dynasty League, great pick. In a redraft league for 2023, not sure he's a great pick. He's not in my top 40. I know he's only ranked at 40, but he's outside my top 40. There's too much not to like there this year, but I do ultimately believe in the talent down the line. Eventually, he's going to be probably the guy in Seattle, because they're not. Just face the reality. Tyler Lockett's probably not going to be in Seattle much longer. This will probably be his last year. But I think DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, pretty talented guys. I would have no concerns drafting either one of them this year as fantasy guys. But it's going to be interesting to see what ultimately happens with Tyler Lockett in 2024 in the future. But in 2023, no concerns with Tyler Lockett. All the concerns with Jackson Smith-Njigba. I just want to put that out there publicly. Now for your wide receiver 5s, 41 through 50. 41, we got Sky Moore. A lot of people are predicting that Sky Moore is going to have a breakout year for the Chiefs. Someone's got to catch balls other than Travis Kelce for the Chiefs. Sky Moore seems like the most likely name, but I think it's going to be a lot like last year. Mahomes is going to spread it around pretty well, and there's going to be a lot of inconsistency with his wide receivers, even though Sky Moore is probably the most talented wide receiver that the Chiefs currently roster. 42, got Jordan Addison, the rookie of the Vikings. I'm not being biased by saying this, but I do think Jordan Addison is in the best position to have the most fantasy success among the rookie wide receivers. 43, got Michael Thomas. I mean, we all know what Michael Thomas can do when he's on the field, but how he has not been on the field in like 3 years. Very rarely been on the field. So, all of us have been burned multiple times by Michael Thomas this year. So, I forgive you if he's off your draft board. I also forgive you if you take a chance on him, because you miss on, let's see, after Christian Kirk, or Michael Pittman or something like that, after the top 34, 35 receivers come off the board. I don't blame you at all for taking a chance on Michael Thomas because that's a huge win if he's anything close to what he used to be when he was healthy. And we saw him last year I think he played 4 games. He was putting up low-end wide receiver 2 numbers. So we know that he is a wide receiver 2 when healthy. He's just not been on the field. He's a huge risk. But at 43, he probably is a value pick at this point. 44, we got Jacoby Myers. Nothing sexy there. He's going to see a lot of targets. He's going to catch a lot of balls. He's going to catch 8 balls for 25 yards a game. Like, maybe very rarely will he score. PPR, though, he's worth having. 45, got Juju Smith-Schuster, who's with the Patriots now. In case you guys lost track of where he is, because I forgot multiple times this offseason where Juju signed. So I have to remind myself constantly. So I figure if I have to remind myself constantly, you guys probably need the reminder. 46, we got Odell Beckham. 47, we got Zay Flowers, the rookie for the Ravens that they took in the first round. 48, we got Chargers rookie Quentin Johnston. 49, we got Gabriel Davis, who I think that's really low for him. I would move Gabriel Davis up probably into the top 40. I'd probably put him in at 40 ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Maybe even higher than that. But that's just conservative. He's definitely top 40 wide receiver for me. In the 50, we got Rondale Moore of the Cardinals. He should be the number 2 guy. We know Rondale Moore is talented. I have been a believer in Rondale Moore since he came into the league. Rondale Moore just needs to stay healthy. And he kind of needs Kyler Murray out there. I'm not sure if Colt McCoy or Josh Dobbs or whoever the Cardinals quarterback ends up being, if that offense is going to be sustainable enough for 2 wide receivers, especially when Zach Ertz comes back later on in the year. Rondale Moore early in the year could be a fringe low-end flex play, but most likely he's probably just going to be a depth option. Injury, if you have Rondale Moore, you're going to be schadenfreudenly hoping for an injury to Marquise Brown or something. A couple of guys outside the top 50 who I think could play their way into the top 50. Because I'm downgrading all Ravens wide receivers. Odell Beckham not top 50, Zay Flowers not top 50. I need to see it from the Ravens offense. I don't care who the offensive coordinator is, as long as Lamar Jackson is the quarterback there. That's going to be a very run-heavy offense. They're not going to pass the ball much except to Mark Andrews. So I know they drafted Zay Flowers. They believe in him. They signed Odell Beckham. They still have Rashad Bateman, who's going to come back at some point. They have some talent out there. I'm not until we see who emerges as the number 1 guy and how their target share, how many targets they get, how much production they get. I'm not buying any of those Ravens wide receivers. They're all off my draft board, all out of my top 50. But at 54, we got Elijah Moore. He got traded to Cleveland. Deshaun Watson should be there for the full season. Elijah Moore, we saw what Elijah Moore could do in a brief 4-game experience at the end of his rookie year, and then he quickly fell out of favor with the Jets for whatever reason. But he got traded. He should be rejuvenated. He should be happy. He should go out there ready to prove himself. And I think having a quarterback like Deshaun Watson and having him an angry Elijah Moore who wants to prove himself and wants to get some money is dangerous. Elijah Moore. And 56, Adam Thielen. If there's any Panthers wide receiver to own, it's Adam Thielen. To me, we know that, yes, he may have dropped off a little bit recently, but he's still an ownable wide receiver. I still think he's a top 50 wide receiver. And then Jameson Williams of the Lions, when he does come back from his gambling suspension, which he's an idiot. Okay, that's a fact. But the fact of the matter is he's a very talented wide receiver. And as soon as he gets back on the field for the Lions, he's going to be a flex-worthy option at wide receiver. And so he's not ranked currently because of the suspension and all that. But I think he comes back. We also didn't see a lot from Jameson Williams when he finally played last year because he missed almost a whole year. So the jury's still out, but I believe in the physical tools. I think Jameson Williams, again, I think he's going to be at least a flex-worthy option on your team when he comes back. So if, he's someone that you should be tracking and ready to pick up with your waiver priority around week 6 or week 7, and we'll talk about that. I'll mention that a little bit more down the line as we get into the season and I do my waiver wire Wednesday videos. But he's worth, if you have the depth or you have a league where suspended players can go on IR, then he's worth drafting and stashing. But that's it. That's the video. We'll do running backs, I don't know, tomorrow, maybe sometime this week. There's still a couple of weeks till the season starts. I got time. But peace, love, and nacho fries. You guys, good luck with your drafts. Have a nice evening. And again, take your family to the movies today if you can.